Hi, this is Alex Brueckmann. I'm the author of Secrets of Next Level Entrepreneurs. And in my episode of the Business Growth Architect Show, I will share with you what business strategy really is beyond the fancy promises of tactical advice.
Welcome to the Business Growth Architect Show. I am Beate Chelette. I am the host. I want to welcome you to our globally top 10% ranked podcast, where you will hear from industry experts about the strategies that are working right now to unlock hidden opportunities in any market so that you can grow your authority and scale your impact. And now let's get started with the show. Welcome back. This is your host, Beate Chelette. Today, we are going all in. I have a fellow colleague who speaks the same language as I do in more than one way. With me here is Alex Brueckmann. Alex, I'm so excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This will be an exciting conversation, I'm sure.
I know it will be. I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off and I'm going to stick my finger right into the wound. You are a fellow business strategist. Why don't you introduce yourself? And then I'm going to ask you the number one provocative question that you and I immediately uncovered when we spoke for the first time. So go ahead, tell everybody who you are and what you do, please.
I live in Vancouver, originally from Germany. And I've been working with small businesses up to Fortune 50 companies on business strategy and leadership related topics all my life.
Excellent. When you and I first talked, and as a fellow strategist, you made a very provocative statement to me, and you have a very strong opinion about it. So I'm going to ask, how many strategies should a business have?
Well, if you ask me that way, I clearly have to say there is only one strategy. That is the strategy of your organization. Everything else underneath is not strategy, that's tactics. That's getting you to where you want to be. And I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions of organizations and people in general when it comes to strategy, that they use the term all over the place and therefore taking away the weight that the term has when you understand it in the way companies should understand it, meaning their overarching set of priorities to get to the place where they want to be in the future.
So that is your definition, the overarching set of values, principles, priorities. Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Now you go into an organization and they have a marketing strategy, they have a sales strategy, they have a social media strategy, they have a lead generation strategy, a conversion strategy, they have a growth strategy. You walk in, you turn pale, presumably. What do you tell them?
The first thing that I do is obviously not telling them that they're all wrong, because they aren't all wrong. They can use that term strategy as much as they want if they define it properly. Of course, an organization can have a marketing strategy, but organizations also need to understand that if everyone uses the term strategy without context, then it's just a buzzword, which confuses everyone. And since I've never been in any organization that has taken the time to clearly define what the term actually means for them, everyone uses the term for everything. And this is where things get difficult. Because you can obviously say, I have a marketing strategy, I have an HR strategy. You can even go down and say, I have a new talent strategy and a hiring strategy, and God knows what strategy you have. The problem comes when you use the term without defining what it means, because then people be like, wow, that sounds fancy. Everyone's talking about strategy. I call my stuff a strategy too. But in the end, you're not doing yourself a service. You're not doing the business a service, because if you don't understand what strategy is, then you cannot execute on it. And what I mean with that is, very specifically, strategy is not your way to get where you want to be. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about strategy. And I have to be honest, there was a time when I tried to dumb the concept down and I didn't do justice to it. It's very simple or easy to say strategy is a way to get the company to where it wants to be, but that's actually not strategy. That's already tactics. That's already planning. Where we're getting into is a pretty interesting space, because you have heard the term strategic planning and many businesses use it. The term strategic planning as such is one of the reasons why people get the concept of strategy all wrong. Strategic planning is an oxymoron. It doesn't exist. You can either do strategy or you can do planning. You can't do both at the same time, because both concepts inherently are very, very different. Strategy is about the client, about the future, about external factors. And planning is all about trying to get a hold of things, try to understand who does what by when, and create the illusion of control. It's internal. And that in itself doesn't work. We need both in an organization. We need strategy and we need planning, and both need proper space, but they need different mindsets. They need different approaches. We need both. We need to give both the space that they need. And if we just mix them together, we don't do justice to neither strategy nor planning. Going back to my point about strategy is not your way that will get you to the goal. That is planning. It's tactics. Strategy is about understanding what let's say the handful of top priorities in your business are to reach that future state. What is the client that we want to serve? What are the big levers that we want to pull? Or you can also ask, what are the big bets that we're making to be successful in the future?
What I'm hearing you say is that when you work with someone, and I think, maybe we can go into an example so we can bring this to life for our audience, the Beehive, and say, what does this actually look like in real life? So when you come into me and you say, all right, the strategy is sort of the bold, hairy goal that we're putting in place of what we want to achieve. Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes. For the sake of this conversation, we can go that way. Yeah.
Good. Let's maybe go and do an example. Most people, when they think about planning or strategic planning, to use these two words together, not correctly, of course, is that people say, I'm making $1 million this year. I want to make $1.5 million next year. So now I am going to develop a strategy to get to these $1.5 million. How do you now, when somebody says this to you, what is your approach to this so we understand the pattern behind the way you approach strategy?
The smaller a company is, and that's counterintuitive, the smaller a company is, the more important strategy actually is, and the less important the planning part is. The reason why I say that is the following. When you are a small company, or a solopreneur even, it's incredibly easy just to go as fast as you can see and to just, as people often say, pivot from one point to the next. And what they're actually doing is they are leaving so much potential just lying on the street without touching it, because they are not asking themselves the really big questions. If you are only thinking about the next year, you rob yourself of the opportunity to stack up your wins over time. Rather than asking yourself, I make $1 million this year, I want to make 1.5 next, what's my approach to that? You should ask yourself a different question. You should ask yourself the question, what is the life that I want to live in 5 years from now? And then you realize planning won't get you there. You can't plan out the next 5 years. That's just not possible, because there are so many things and externalities that will come your way. You can't predict it. What you can do is, by understanding where you want to be in 3 to 5 years, you can define the big levers, the big priorities that will most likely get you there. You can't plan step by step, but you have an understanding of which priorities might get you there. Let's make this very specific. For example, when you say, I run a small business and I want to be 10 times as big in 5 years from now than I am today, one of the big levers that will probably get you there is learning. There are things that you have no idea about that you need to understand at some point in the future in order to get you there. And I don't want to be too specific, but one example might be strategic pricing. How do you price your products and services? This is the biggest profit lever that any business has. Do you understand that lever? If you're not 100% sure whether I really understand that lever, learning about that lever might be an important priority for you. And this is just one example. There will be a ton of different other things that you as a business leader will have to learn. So learning and development for yourself might be one of the big priorities that will help you get to that point in the future. Another one will most likely be systems and talent. If you want to scale a business tenfold, there will be no way you can do that by conducting business exactly the same way as you do it today. You will have to hire the right kind of people. You will have to install the right kinds of systems and processes in your organization. Professionalization of systems and processes might be another priority. And the third priority might be talent and hiring and building a team. You see, these 3 levers have nothing to do with your offering. They have nothing to do with what you're actually selling. They are more about how do I grow? What do I have to put in place to make the rest possible? And of course, a fifth lever might be product development and understanding 100% what the customer really wants and honing in on that and differentiating your offering in these things. It's not the tactics, it's not the planning for the next 6 months or the next year that will get you to this point. You need to think longer term in order to be able to stack up your wins, to build on your wins time and again over the years that will eventually get you to this ideal point. In this example, 10-folding your business.
I love the clarity with which you approach it. I mean, it almost sounds to me like there's also aspects of mindset, because in the universal laws of success or in working with the law, like Raymond Hollowell says, there is this overruling idea to say, what do you want? And in my experience, and I bet yours is no different, when you say to somebody, what do you want? They go into this, well, I just want to make money. It's like this trite
Yeah.
answer. And then our first job is to just go in with a shovel and the excavation kit to even get to what is it that motivates them and that hooks the passion and the vision and the mission. There's a fire that's burning. So when you go in and you look at somebody's 5-year vision of their life, what are you experiencing? How difficult or easy it is for people to actually get to their own truth of what that looks like?
Yeah, and you're touching on something that is probably at the core of all major business mess ups. Yes. That people aren't really clear about what they want. And those are the people that then will tell you, oh, and then the pandemic hit and then I had to pivot. What do you mean by that? Yeah, I really didn't see any chance of my business to succeed in the future. And then I just did something else. And that's exactly the problem. If you're in it to make money, you will never stick through a difficult time. You will try to find an easy way out. You will pivot and you will do something entirely different. The problem with that is if you pivot and pivot and pivot, you can't stack up your wins. You always start with zero. You always start to learn the basics of an industry. It's always funny if I see when I see businesses or people that run a franchise business in a certain industry, then all of a sudden they do something entirely different. Then they buy themselves a landscaping company and then a security company and then a traffic company. And I'm like, what? Where do you take all the knowledge from? Where do you take your expertise from? They don't. They are not in it because they really want to build something of significance. They're in it to make a fast buck. And that's when businesses, unfortunately, often fail because there is no underlying foundation. It's not rooted in a vision or in something that you really want. There is no purpose behind what you do. And that's when everyone else in an industry will outperform you who does have that underlying clear set of core values. They know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. They're in it for the long term. And business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a series of sprints. I believe when you ask yourself, what is it that I want to do? Rather ask yourself, what is it who I want to be? And from there, start reverse engineering. What type of business do I want to be in? And how does it help me to become the person that I want to be?
Wow, fascinating. We will talk more about your personal value statement and how to combine that with strategy right after this quick message. Are you looking for the hidden opportunities for you in this market? Or are you simply wanting to figure out what is your unique differentiation factor that makes clients want to work with you and not your competitors? If this resonates, I want to invite you to go to uncoverysession.com and schedule your 15-minute complimentary uncovery session with one of our business growth advisors that will take you through what your number one business growth blocker is, what you can do to remove it, and what your very best next step should be. And now let's get back to the show. Welcome back. This is Beate and Alex, and we're talking about two very fascinating things. What really sticks out to me, we both left Germany. We both went to another country. We both business strategists. And yet we talk about mindset, spirituality, loss, mindset, passion, burning desire, and all these really good concepts. How do you explain this to someone who comes to you for the hardcore strategy with a German accent, right? German engineered, and then you tell them about passion and desire and mindset?
Fortunately, more and more people understand that business is not a set of hard skills. that succeeding in business has more to do with being human and humane than it has to do with the set of university taught skills that you bring to the game. And those are the people that I enjoy working with the most, because that's when you kind of create that common platform where you can then build something exciting on. And I give you two specific examples. I currently work with a national bank, and the CEO has a very interesting background, very diverse experience, always been in that industry, but has seen it from different angles. And that has brought so much humbleness that they are not thinking, I know the way, everyone behind me, let's go. It's more a co-creation of the future they want to build for the people in the business and the clients they serve. So it has a deeply humane aspect. And we're not talking about strategy in the sense of purely competitive strategy. We're talking about building a business of significance, something that helps people thrive. And that is so exciting, because the humane aspect of business is in the end the reason why we do what we do. You can't take any of the money that you have with you to the next chapter of your existence, however that will look like. But what you can do is you can influence the people that work with you and for you in ways that they see a legacy that truly matters. And with legacy, I don't mean the house that you hand down to the next generation, but what you use your business for when it comes to creating a more just environment, socially and environmentally speaking. And that is the true legacy of any leader. And strategy is a unique vehicle to think about the legacy that you want to create for a business. And that does not have anything to do with hard skills. That is all about how you show up, why you show up, and how you want to be remembered.
There is no strategy without vision. And without vision, there can't be a strategy.
Correct.
Okay. I find this a very fascinating, slightly provocative statement, although I do believe in this. But I find that there are different levels of understanding of these principles. So either people have a very strong vision, but then they lack the strategic understanding on how to build this, or they feel just bad about it. Yeah. There is the middle that is on this perpetual roller coaster that you described, always looking for another internet marketing gimmick. Just follow this one thing. If you only knew how to sell from stage, everything would be great, which is an absolute lie. And then there are people that are just about money, where they say, I'm just in it to get to make the money as much as I can, as quickly as I can. And they blow up their relationships and all kinds of other things in the process. When you work with your clients, how do you assess what it is that they need? Do you have a particular process in place that you would like to share with our audience so that we can have them take a tangible takeaway from this call, from this podcast?
Thank you for this question, because it gives me the opportunity to clear away one of the biggest misconceptions about strategy facilitation. I don't come in and tell people what to do. They know exactly what they need. They are the industry experts. They have been in it for a long time. They know their clients inside out. They know exactly what they need. What I bring is a process to help them distill their knowledge and experience into something you can call a strategy. That is the biggest misconception that many people have about us. We're not consultants. We don't come in and tell you based on our experience what we think you should do.
We're facilitators with a lot of experience.
Exactly.
Yes.
But our process and our experience is not about your subject matter expertise.
No, it is about organizing theirs. Yes.
Yeah. And I think once people understand that, their expectation towards, or their understanding of the value that someone like us brings, it changes entirely. Because all of a sudden you realize, I have a leadership team of 8 people. Everyone has a different understanding of what the term strategy means. This is the root cause of all, it just doesn't work that way. We need to, first of all, create a common definition of what we're trying to create. And then there are egos at play. There are different ideas at play of what should be done, where to focus on. And if you then bring someone in that has a process in place that helps everyone to be heard and seen, and then pour this into a way forward, that's the true magic that happens when you bring in a strategy facilitator. I don't tell people where to go. I work with companies that range from apparel to luxury travel to banking. to automotive, to pharma. They don't bring me in because I'm an expert in their field. What they value, however, is that after working with them for a while, I speak their language, I understand their abbreviations, I become a trusted thought partner. But that doesn't mean I tell them what I think they should do, because it doesn't matter what I think. I'm not the expert in their industry. They are. The magic happens when you help them distill the essence out of their discussions and pour them into a set of priorities, which then is a strategy. And then you move that strategy into a planning phase where you decide who does what by when. And then all of a sudden you align the organization around what really matters. Everyone understands how they, through their work, bring the strategy to life. And that's when everyone pulls in the same direction. It's incredible how much energy you can release and just go full force. And it's so important for every employee in an organization to understand how they're contributing to the bigger picture. And you can only tell them once you are clear on your strategy.
I think you have just identified this so very, very clearly. The reason, you're absolutely correct, the reason we call ourselves strategists is because there is a skill set that really good strategists have. That is, when we listen, we hear things that we haven't heard before, and we automatically know that there's something there if it that sounds different, is unique, has a positioning element, a branding element, where you go, it's like, what did you just say? And it's almost like you can hear them talk it out. And as they talk through this, you recognize what the pieces are, and then you help them pull these things out. I want to give an example about something you just said, getting every voice heard. I was just doing a team facilitation where we were designing a membership program. And one of the new employees said there was really no need for me, the facilitator, to put us in pairs of 2. We could have done this in the group of 6. And I said to her, if I would have done that, only extroverts would have spoken and the introverts would have had no opportunity to talk. I knew who I had to give time and space to think and go into the internal process. And I think people misunderstand the power of bringing in a strategic facilitator. And I like what you said, a trusted thought. What did you say?
Partner.
A trusted thought partner to help them make sense of their own thoughts and to validate or say, here's what I'm hearing. Is this what's happening? And then through the process of the way you manage strategy or process or workflow development, help them organize this in a way that they can find that way forward, because you can never see your own stuff. I mean, it's just impossible. I love this idea of the clarity in which you are phrasing things so that our audience, your clients, people listening or watching can really understand these fine nuances. And I really want to encourage all of our listeners to maybe go back to what Alex just said and really listen to the clarity of the communication, how he articulates what he does, because I think that is a priority for every consultant, coach, expert, service provider out there, to make sure that you have this clear definition of what it is that you do. On that, how clear are most people that come to you with what they actually do?
From a business perspective, most of them have a very good grasp. What they often are not 100% clear is what they need in terms of how I might be able to help them. And I give you a specific example. Just last week, I got a call from someone who felt they needed a coach. And when I use that term, it's in the sense of how it's defined by the International Coaching Federation. Not someone telling you what they think you should do, but someone who's actually...
all the way. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then I talked to them to better understand why they felt they needed a coach. And what we ended up with, what they coming to a realization that they actually don't need a coach, they need a facilitator to help the executive leadership team through a process of defining their new vision, mission, and strategy. And that is a very, very different thing than having an individual executive coach for yourself. Now, that is something that is very common, Beate, that someone approaches me with an idea what they think they need. And then through a questioning process, we explore what they want to achieve. And they then say, wait a second, but that's not what I wanted in the first place. But I don't tell them what I think they need. They come to that realization themselves through creating a better understanding of what the different types of support are that they can tap into. For example, when I do leadership development programs for executive teams, we often start with defining certain terminology. What is the difference between a coach, a mentor, a trainer, a therapist? There are very fine nuances and differences between these job descriptions. And unfortunately, that's not really clear to a lot of people. So they would use a sentence like, I have a brilliant coach. He gives me all this advice. And then I do something amazing with it. And I'm like, in my head, just 2 breaking points. A coach doesn't give advice.
It's a consultant.
That's a consultant or a mentor or maybe a trainer. And that is something that is deeply valuable for the customers. It's important for them to understand the nuances because, let's be honest, people don't get successful because they know how to facilitate a strategy process. They don't get successful because they know how to develop their leaders. Most people become successful because of the subject matter expertise that they have. And growing within their field, within their subject matter expertise, all of a sudden washes them into a leadership position and then up the chain. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, yeah, but you are on the exec team. Shouldn't you know how to create a strategy? Well, no, that's not my subject matter expertise. You didn't hire me for that. I didn't deliver results based on that. So, and that's when people be like, oh God, I need a coach. I need someone to tell me how to create a strategy. And then they reach out, and often in a conversation, we then reach a conclusion that helps them understand what they really need. And sometimes I'm not the right person to help them. Sometimes they come to me with a certain understanding of what I do and a sense that I might be able to help them. But what they actually need is something entirely different. That's also fine.
Alex, for somebody who now heard this and said, my gosh, I got to talk to Alex, where do we send them and where can they get their Alex fix?
First of all, there's a lot of content on my website. You don't necessarily have to talk to me to benefit from all these thoughts. There is just a ton of content out there. I have a blog that I regularly feed with content. I have a podcast that is a companion podcast for my new book. There is the book. But if you really want to talk to me, you find a contact form on my website and you can reach out, alexthestrategist.com, or if you dare to write my name, brueckmann.ca.
And let's just talk about your book really quickly. So why do I want to read your book?
Well, if you run your own business or if you are a corporate leader, that book gives you 3 main themes that you know make or break your success. One is hard skills that you most likely don't have because they are not your subject matter expertise. But if you want a seat on the table, those are the ones that you need to understand. 3 of them are understanding what sustainable business means, doing well while doing good. Another one, strategic pricing. How do you maximize your profit potential? And the third topic in this first theme is how to create a business strategy. The second theme is all about leadership and culture creations. How do you lead teams through challenging times? How do you manage conflict and lead through conflict? And the third theme is a bit weird for a business book. It's all about self-care and why that matters for people who run their own businesses or who lead other people. You got to start with yourself. That's the themes of the book, and you really want to read them because they matter for your success more than you might realize at this point. Becoming curious about these topics gave me a whole new level of consciousness when it comes to helping my clients. And it's not a book that I wrote myself. So I don't pretend to be an expert in things where I'm not. I brought in a bunch of really, really shining experts in their fields. For example, the topic of strategic pricing was contributed by Dr. Hermann Simon, who is the world's foremost expert in this topic. It's every page in this book is a full meal. Don't read it back to back. It's way too much to digest because the topics are so diverse. If you want to know more about self-care, just read the chapter about self-care. If you want to know more about leadership, start with those topics and put it back into the shelf.
Alex, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on the show. Loved speaking to another strategist. Loved that you have different ideas about this than I do. And because I do believe that different viewpoints help our audience to identify what resonates with them. So always listen to that and follow desire and follow your passion. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation, Beate.
And that's it for us today. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And until next time, this is your host, Beate Chelette, and goodbye. Thank you for listening to or watching the show. We are so excited that you're here and we are very grateful for you. Now it's our turn to ask you for help. Please do share this episode with one other person that needs to hear what we were talking about today. If there's any question you have about business, please do reach out to us and let us know. And don't forget to schedule your complimentary Uncovery session at uncoverysession.com, where one of our business growth advisors will help you to figure out what your number one business growth blocker is in only 15 minutes. And that's it for us today. Until next time.